Never defend yourself. The moment you start explaining yourself, you've already lost. Picture this. The accusation lands. A sharp remark slipped in at dinner. A look in a meeting that questions your capability. Your partner twisting your words. You feel the heat rising in your chest. The stress hormones spike. Your mind screams, "You're not being seen. Reality is bending. You need to correct this right now." So you speak. You explain. You offer excuses. You set the stage. And in that exact moment, you've handed them your vein. Because the world doesn't weigh you by the truth of what you say. It weighs you by the desperation in your delivery. The one who explains is the one who submits. The one who defends is the one who grants the other person the right to judge them. Niccolò Machiavelli, the master of power dynamics, understood a brutal truth that modern society has been trying to rip out of you. He knew that power isn't about being right. It's about who holds the frame. And the moment you defend yourself, you step into their frame. You sit in the defendant's chair in their courtroom. But what if you didn't defend yourself? What if, when the attack came, you did the one thing that terrifies a manipulator more than anything else? Emotional slave. Most people spend their lives as emotional puppets. They are manipulated by the strings of others' opinions. If someone raises an eyebrow, they apologize. If someone accuses, they explain themselves. They live in constant reactive defense, striving to prove they are good, smart, or worthy. This is a pitiful way of existing. It is the slow suffocation of the soul. But there is another way. To move through the world so independent, so sovereign, and so psychologically impenetrable that insults don't even get the chance to bounce off you. They dissolve before they touch you. This isn't about being cold. It isn't about arrogance. It's about a fundamental shift in where you derive your reality from. Today we will examine the psychology of defenselessness. We will look at why biology betrays you in these moments, and how to overcome it with a strategy Machiavelli would whisper to a prince. I will show you how to instantly reverse the balance of power, how to make the aggressor doubt their own mind, how to use silence not as a void of voice, but as a weapon of destruction against someone's ego. But I warn you, this requires you to kill a part of yourself that has been nurtured since childhood, the part that begs to be understood, the part that waits for approval. If you can kill that need, you become dangerous. You become untouchable. Let's begin. Why are you like this? When someone questions you, why is your first instinct to present proof of your innocence? It starts in childhood. Think about it. You were 5 years old and a parent or teacher accused you of something. What was the only way to escape punishment? Explanation. I didn't break it. It fell. I didn't hit them. They hit me first. You learned that authority figures held the power of judgment, and you learned that survival depended on convincing that authority figure of your innocence. The problem is, you grew up, but your mind did not. You walk through the world projecting that authority figure onto everyone you encounter. Your boss, your partner, a stranger on the internet, even your enemies. When you defend yourself to someone, your subconscious is saying, "You are the judge. I am the child. Please accept my defense so I can feel safe." This reeks of weakness, and we humans, primitive as we are, can smell that scent of submission from miles away. Machiavelli wrote, "It is much safer to be feared than loved." Now translate this to contemporary social dynamics. It is much safer to be respected than understood. When you rush to defense, you are not prioritizing respect over being understood. You are saying, "Please understand me. Please see my intention." But a king does not explain his decree to a peasant. A lion does not negotiate its prey with a gazelle. The moment you start rambling, listing justifications, showing messages, bringing up past events to prove you're right, you reveal that your inner peace depends on their validation. You hand them the key to your house, and once that key is in their hands, they can demolish the house whenever they please. This is the trap of the approval-seeking self. You think that if you explain clearly enough, they will say, "Oh, now I understand. You're right. I was wrong." How often does this actually happen? Almost never. Because the attack was never about the facts. It was about power. They didn't accuse you because they wanted to learn the truth. They accused you to see if you would jump, and you jumped. The first step to becoming untouchable is to grasp that the court does not exist. There is no judge. There is no jury. There is only you and your perception of reality. When you stop treating people like judges, accusations begin to feel not like sentences, but like opinions. And opinions are just noise. What happens when you don't react? Picture the scene. Someone drives a verbal knife into you. You're being extremely selfish right now. The old you would respond, "No, I'm not. Yesterday I did X, Y, and Z for you. I'm just exhausted." Defending yourself, helpless, reacting on impulse. Now picture the Machiavellian stance. "You're being extremely selfish right now," they say. You fix your eyes on them. You don't look away. You don't blink. You leave your face completely expressionless. You allow the silence to hang in the void. 3, 4, 5 seconds. Do you know what happens in that silence? A mental vacuum. The human mind is terrified of silence during conflict. It signals a crack in the social bond. It signals that the other person isn't playing by the rules. When you go silent, you return their energy back to them. You force them to wait in the pressure they themselves created. Most often they begin to unravel. They speak again to fill the void. "I mean, you're not always selfish, but right now you are. Why are you looking at me like that?" They try to clear themselves against your silence. Power has changed hands. This is the gray rock technique weaponized. You become a nothingness. Nothingness cannot be attacked. You cannot punch smoke. You cannot stab a shadow. By refusing to offer the hardness of defense, you cause their attacks to flow through and destabilize them. This requires immense inner discipline, because inside your ego is howling. Answer. Deliver a sharp retort. You must keep that animal chained. Machiavelli knew that the most powerful person in the room is the one who is unreadable. If you defend, you reveal what you value. You reveal what breaks you. You reveal your weak points. You scream, "I'm not stupid." Now they know your insecurity is intelligence. "I'm not a bad person." Now they know your insecurity is virtue. Silence reveals nothing. It is a black mirror. And when they peer into it, they see only the reflection of their own hostility. And this unsettles them. They feel condemned, which is ironic because you didn't even open your mouth. Agree and amplify. Sometimes silence isn't enough. Sometimes the situation calls for words, but never defensive words. If you must speak, never resist power. Draw it into yourself. Use the aikido of conversation. In dark psychology, there's a concept called agree and amplify. It creates cognitive dissonance in the aggressor. If someone accuses you of something absurd, defending yourself legitimizes the absurdity. It implies the accusation is worth responding to. Instead, you dive into it. You inflate it until it becomes a caricature. Aggressor. You're obsessed with money. You're greedy. Defensive. You. No, I'm not. I just want to take care of my family. Boring. Predictable. Powerless. Machiavellian OU. You caught me. Actually, every Tuesday I swim in a pool of gold like Scrooge McDuck. It's terrible for my back. You say this with a stone face or a slight mocking smile. What did you do here? You didn't accept the belittlement. You proved you're not anxious about the subject. You turned their sharp move into comedy. You're the one setting the stage, not them. This neutralizes the aggressor's bullet. They wanted to hit you. Instead, you snatched their gun and started popping balloons. This signals playful superiority. Playful superiority is the pinnacle of high status. It's the attitude of a parent watching a child's tantrum. You don't yell at the child. You don't argue with the child. The show amuses you because you know you're unshakable. When you defend yourself, you've knelt down and whined alongside the child. Don't do that. Stand tall. Look down from above. Smirk. Robert Greene in the 48 Laws of Power addresses Law 25. Recreate yourself. Part of this is rejecting the role others try to force upon you. When they label you, they're trying to shove you into a cage. If you wrestle with the cage, you're still inside it. If you play with the cage, you vaporize it. You're arrogant. I prefer magnetic self-confidence, but whatever. You don't think about anyone but yourself. True. Maybe I'll add you to my list of people I care about in the next decade. Ruthless, indifferent, and wildly seductive. Why? Because it shows you're complete. You don't need their applause to understand who you are. Someone who knows they're generous laughs when called stingy. Someone who knows they're sharp laughs when called a fool. If you're getting defensive, deep down you're afraid they might be right. And that's the shadow work you need to handle. Seize the judge's seat. Let's dive deep into philosophy. Every dialogue has a superstructure, an invisible skeleton. In a friction, there's usually a judge and an accused. The judge directs questions. Why did you do this? What were you thinking? Who do you think you are? The accused answers, I did it because my thought was that. The one directing questions holds the power. The one answering loses position. The deadliest Machiavellian move is to reject the role of the accused and seize the role of the judge. You do this by countering a question with a question, or by putting their behavior under the microscope instead of your own. Them. Why are you always late? Defensive, you. There was traffic and my alarm didn't go off. You're losing. Machiavellian, you. Why does my arrival time affect your mood so deeply? Boom. Did you notice the shift? Suddenly we're not talking about the clock. We're talking about their emotional stability. We're talking about their reaction. You turned the projector back on them. Them. You're talking nonsense. Machiavellian, you. Why do you resort to labeling to convey your thoughts? You're psychoanalyzing them live. This drives a manipulator insane. They want you on the defensive. Instead, you're circling around them, examining them like a specimen in a glass case. Interesting that you interpret it that way. Does bringing this up make you feel better? You seem quite attached to this issue. These phrases are armor. They acknowledge the sound falling from the other person's lips, but not the substance. It's a boundary line, a verbal shield. You're saying, this is your issue, not mine. You deal with it. This isn't merely a technique. It's a spiritual stance. It's the realization that how others see you is none of your concern. Their anger is their problem. Their disappointment is their burden to handle. When you defend, you're trying to carry their emotional baggage for them. You're trying to fix their feelings. Let go. Let them carry their own weight. The acceptance of the abyss. Now let's come to the paradox. Sometimes the most aggressive, power-reversing move you can make is acceptance, but not the way you think. This is not the acceptance of surrender. It is the acceptance of the abyss. Imagine someone screaming at you. They're listing your shortcomings. They're trying to start a fight. You look into their eyes and calmly say, "You're right." And then you stop talking. "You're right. Sometimes I'm difficult." "You're right. I messed this up." This is the fogging technique. What happens when you throw a stone into a cluster of fog? Nothing. No sound, no rebound. It just gets swallowed. When you agree with an aggressor, you steal their momentum. They're charging at a door they think is locked. When you open the door, they fall flat on their face. They want conflict. They want resistance. Resistance validates their anger. Acceptance neutralizes it. But here's the subtlety. You must accept the reality in their words without accepting the shame they're trying to attach. There's an abyss between acknowledging a mistake and accepting a character assassination. "You messed up this report. You're incompetent." Defense, "I'm not incompetent. The data was wrong." Power move. "You're right, there are errors in the report. I'll fix it." Notice what stayed out. You didn't touch the incompetent part. You skipped the insult and addressed the fact. You took responsibility for the action, but not the identity. This signals enormous self-confidence. Only someone certain of their capacity can acknowledge a mistake this easily. Insecure people struggle desperately to prove they didn't make a mistake. Secure people say, "Oops, that's on me," and move on. Machiavelli would call this disarming the enemy. If you lay your sword on the ground, the one holding theirs looks foolish. It takes the wind from their sails. It makes them look unhinged, and you unshakable. And in the long run, history is written by the unshakable. Confronting the inner shadow. None of this holds as a technique alone. If you're spitting these words but your tone is trembling, if your eyes are darting left and right, or if your presence is begging, "Please validate me," it collapses. Dark psychology is 20% words, 80% wordless message. You must erect the spiritual structure to shoulder the silence. This drags us back to the shadow. Why does it sting when they make a move on you? Because they're pressing on a bruise that already exists. If I told you your skin is blue, you wouldn't get angry. You'd assume I'd lost my mind. You wouldn't clear your name. You'd giggle. But if I told you you're a loser and you started defending yourself, the reason is that a corner of you is anxious. I might have spoken the truth. Absolute defense is not a linguistic trick. It is knowing yourself. It is meeting your own darknesses eye to eye, owning your own gaps, and making peace with your own shadow. When you know you're prone to selfishness and someone calls you selfish, you say, at times. When you know you're prone to cruelty and someone calls you cruel, you say, perhaps. You cannot bury someone who has already settled accounts with themselves. You cannot expose someone who has no corners left to hide. This is what it means to be untouchable. You have absorbed the corners others struggle to use as leverage against you. You become clear. Sunlight passes through you. Spears pass through you. You are no longer a fortress that must be defended. You are the storm. The challenge. Here is the challenge. For the next 7 days, you will play a game. The name of the game, no defense. No matter what happens, no matter how small the accusation, clearing your name is forbidden. If you're late, say, I'm late. Don't offer justification. If you spill coffee, say, I spilled the coffee. Don't blame it on the cup. If someone misreads you, let them misread. Sit in the ember of that discomfort. Feel the urge to correct, to control your image, to be the good person, and let that urge burn to ash. Watch what happens to those around you. Watch how they respond when you stop joining the dance. First you'll see confusion, then respect, then a strange attraction, because people are drawn to solidity, and nothing screams solidity louder than someone who doesn't need to explain why they exist. You're reclaiming your energy. You're sealing the cracks in your soul. You're shedding the role of child and stepping into the role of sovereign. The world will try to pull you back. It will provoke you. It hungers for reaction. Don't give it. Guard your mystery. Guard your power. Guard your silence. If this philosophy echoes in the deeper, darker corners of your mind, the part that's exhausted from performing for others, then you know what to do. Subscribe, not because I ask, because you're done being prey in a world of predators. Join the family. The next chapter awaits.